Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. This series I am once again joined by my wonderful co-host, that darn kitty.
Dorkus and I are sharing our experience reading The Way of Kings for the first time. Each episode we will summarize what we've read and discuss the experience along the way.
This is Storming the Archives, The Way of Kings, and today we discuss Chapter 7.
Chapter 7!
Anything Reasonable. Shalyn, determined to become Jasnah's ward, sets her mind toward her task. As she heads through the main hall, she considers her father's character. She remembers him as being skilled in politics, hated, and ruthless. Qualities that led him far, in addition to newly found marble deposits in his territory. Shalyn reflects on her naivety. After interrogating her deceased father's surveyor, she realizes her father had used his forbidden soulcaster to create new marble deposits. Although a steward, Luesh, had been trained to use the soulcaster, it had been rendered inoperable after breaking. She reflects on her intentions to use the soulcaster to settle her family's absurd debts, make new quarries, feed their dependents, and finally, safely, announce her father's passing. A servant brings Shalyn through the Veil, a gorgeous room outside the Palladium proper. Before she can enter into the Palladium, however, she is asked to pay 1,000 sapphire bromes to enter. A steep price to pay for access to the largest collection of tombs and scrolls on Roshar. Her father's 87 books pale in comparison to the thousands of tomes so close, yet so far away. Shalyn decides to wait for Jasnah outside of the Palladium. A servant takes her to an alcove reserved for Jasnah. She decides to clear her head while she waits by painting. Her equipment is more valuable to her than a chest of spheres. First, she paints Kharbranth, the tension draining from her body. Her method of painting is not so dissimilar from sculptors who work first in vague shapes, then each iteration becoming more and more specific. Next, she paints a portrait of Yalb and the porter. Shalyn's goal isn't merely to paint with charcoal and paper. Her medium is the soul itself. Creation spren gather around, watching the painting. Skill makes a difference in whether or not creation spren gather. Eventually, she held up the page, satisfied. It depicted Yalb and the porter in detail, with hints of the busy city behind. She'd gotten their eyes right. That was the most important. Each of the 10 essences had an analogous part of the human body: blood for liquid, hair for wood, and so forth. The eyes were associated with crystal and glass, the windows into a person's mind and spirit. Some men collect trophies or money, but Shalyn collects people. These first two paintings were merely warm-ups. Finally, Shalyn begins painting Jasnah, soul-casting the boulder away. She closes her eyes briefly, placing herself in the moment she had witnessed earlier, and begins, losing herself in her painting. 24 creation spren gather around by the time the painting is finished. Regardless of what may come, Jasnah was now a part of Shalyn's collection. Shalyn is confident that Jasnah will appreciate her determination, but notes that Jasnah is a person who would admire a more rational, logical approach. Shalyn begins writing a lengthy letter explaining that while the sciences may be logical, people are not. More importantly, she notes that while more qualified candidates likely came by their education with ease, she had to fight for her knowledge, that she was hungry to learn in a way that those more privileged might not be. The arguments are imperfect, she thinks, and is uncomfortable with the lies built on truths she had included. But before she can crumple the paper, she hears the sounds of footsteps. In walks an Ardent in his early 20s. As he goes to grab a chair for himself, Shalyn notes her father had owned only 3 elderly Ardents. The Ardent, Brother Cabsal, returns and admires Shalyn's creation. He insists that Shalyn do away with her formalities, while Shalyn is taken aback by the young Ardent's uncouth demeanor. The two banter for a time, exchanging witticisms about manure, respect, and the Almighty. Brother Cabsal applies lacquer to the painting, partly to Shalyn's alarm, though she's too timid to interject. Fortunately, Brother Cabsal is suitably capable and applies the lacquer perfectly. The young Ardent decides to leave, but not before he requests Shalyn let Jasnah know that he's looking for her. He believes Jasnah presents a unique challenge and wouldn't be able to live with himself if he didn't take an opportunity to convert her. Shalyn feels bad about a miscommunication between her and Brother Capsol regarding her relationship to Jasna. In an effort to mitigate that concern, Brother Capsol asks Shalyn if there's anything she's uniquely fond of, to which she responds that she likes jam. Brother Capsol takes his leave, and a short time later, an angry-looking Jasna enters into the alcove. Whew.
She did not look pleased.
No, she did not. So why don't we start with the death rattles, and we should get ourselves in the habit of actually covering the death rattle in the episode itself. So for chapter 7, they are aflame. They burn. They bring the darkness when they come, and so all you can see is that their skin is aflame. Burn, burn, burn. Collected on Paula Hishev, 1172, 20 seconds pre-death. Subject was a baker's apprentice.
We've got Baker's Apprentice. Okay, again, so we've gotten used to the fact that these death rattles are right before, seconds before death, and they have certain subjects. Something really mundane, just a baker's apprentice dying. Quite an interesting sample.
Yes, and it is taken in 1172, which comes off the heels of our observation that the year we think is around 1173, which means that this happened in between that 5-year gap.
Yeah.
They are aflame, they burn, they bring the darkness. Did you think Voidbringers?
Yeah, some sort of monster. It's not like, I didn't think of those mechs or whatever. I didn't think of that being it. Because you would think if there is no big bad, right, the only threat that everybody comes across in this world now is just the war between the warring peoples. But this is like a certain kind of monster that is being described here. It's not just... So I don't know if maybe it's actually... it could describe a radiant. It doesn't have to be a... because it seems like a radiant literally radiates, so could be that. But considering, yeah, you can see that their skin is aflame. That seems like a radiant, or what we experienced in the beginning of the book, which I termed radiant.
Interesting. And none of the characters outside of the death rattles that we have interacted with so far has, except for Seth, have commented on a potential end of the world scenario. So
yeah,
they don't know that the deepness is coming, so to speak. So whatever, if the end of the world is nigh, I think the general populace has not yet cottoned onto it, so to speak.
I mean, we have had the discussion of the history of the desolation. Like, we've had the desolation being, or desolations being mentioned before, but not that it is now coming. This final desolation is coming now.
Yeah.
From the current characters.
Right. And of course, the heralds aren't going to be around, presumably, to put off the desolation this time around, at least. So one of the things that I wanted to bring up in this chapter is illegal soul casters. Shalyn thinks that her father owned an illegal one, so clearly they are strictly regulated. It's interesting because she's brightness Shalyn, so she's nobility. So if anyone's going to be able to use it, one might think nobility. So why wouldn't nobility be able to use it? And certainly Jasna Colin is nobility.
We know that she's much higher nobility, so maybe it's not just nobility or light-eyedness that allows you to use a soulcaster. You have to have some sort of authority or some sort of... You need a license for that soulcaster.
Right. It could just be specifically royal family rather than nobility. Or it could be specifically for religious sects, the Ardents type of situation. Yeah.
We just don't know what the rules are, because also she can't just go, hey, can you fix my not working soulcaster to someone. That's why she has to keep it a secret. So we still need the rules to be clarified here.
Right. Well, we know that the territory over in the Shattered Plains, where the war camp is, has
Mm.
been soul casted to make barracks. And we know that Sadeas is a high prince. We know Jasna Colon. So I'm thinking it could just specifically be limited to the royal family.
Some level of royalty, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to bring up was the concept of owning Ardents. She thinks
I
to
highlighted
herself,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
um, you own Ardents. Okay, so first off, this seems like a terrible world. Because
Owning people.
you own parshmen, you own slaves, you're better than the dark eyes, and you
Mm-hmm.
can own the religious priests.
Yeah.
Um, I don't like it.
No, I'm very uncomfortable. But
So
this is weird because there is owning them, and then there's also this respect that you give them. So it's like I own you, but also I have to, like, she's trained to give. So she just says yes, ardent,
yeah,
instead of, like, yes, no. So even it's yes, ardent, no, no, ardent. I apologize, ardent. Like, you're supposed to speak to them in a certain way, but at the same time, you also own them, which is just, it's a weird word. I don't. I'm.
yeah, it's a really strange juxtaposition.
Hmm.
So I liked the way that Brandon Sanderson wrote about Shallon's passion for the arts.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It was very poignant. It was deep in the right places. Very much what you would expect someone as passionate as her about the arts to feel. I gotta wonder how long she waited for
Mhm.
Jasna to appear, because she went through three paintings, which all sounded to be fairly detailed.
Yeah, she did a lot. I was thinking they were sketches, and that's why she needed the lacquer. But she does refer to paints while she's doing it.
Yeah,
So yeah. So either way, it's a lot.
yeah. If I'm going to try and find a complaint here, it's just that the amount of painting she may have successfully gotten done stretches the limits of what I might find. But I guess there are
But
people who
she's
can,
skilled. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Listen, I just watched Rosales just like doodle and whatever, and it made the most cute things. Like, it, if you're good at it, you're not sitting there erasing your lines and things like that. So it seems like she gets into this sort of state of of
a
concentration.
meditation.
Yeah, and it just everything just comes out of her. And she even talks about taking memories, or like taking, basically she takes moments and puts them in her mind for painting later.
Yeah, that was really neat. She
Mm.
she collects souls, and
She
she
collects souls. Yeah.
she tries to, the way she conceptualizes having them in her memory and then committing it to the page and entering into her collection is very neat to read
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, she considers them captured once she's painted them.
Yeah.
Um,
What did you think of the letter?
you know what? I think it's wordy enough. She's trying. It's yeah. I don't think it's particularly wow, but maybe she needs to add to it. I feel like, because I'm thinking of, she's talking about her ignorance and whatever, but I'm actually like, what about your ignorance, reasonable lady? You think that you think that everything is valuable, but now you won't value my skills. Maybe that's a blind spot for you. Maybe that's an angle of attack she could take. I don't know. I just feel like Jasna is so formidable. Even an air letter is not going to work. I think she just needs to be suitably impressed with those paintings. I don't know
Yeah.
what value they would bring to her, but she needs to somehow find Jasna's skill. I mean, Shallon's skill important, because otherwise, I don't know how this is going to go.
Well, that leads me to my next question. Do you think it'll be successful?
It has to be, otherwise we don't have a story. Otherwise, we're going to have to just follow her around. I suppose that you do that.
Interestingly, I don't think it'll be successful. I think something else might be successful
Mm-hmm.
in getting her the wardship, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'll be this.
It'll be another attempt later on, something else. She's not going to give up.
Yeah, and a part of this is meta supposition, just based off of the fact that Kaladin's story so far has just been downward trajectory. I suppose I sort of suspect it'll be similar for Shallan.
True, it can't be this easy. It's just, it can't be. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, I like the fact of her finding Jasna's skills. Stop it. The fact of her finding Shallan's skills important, that's not really around the corner for me. I don't know how she's going to do that, but we need to somehow have a situation where that matters, and it's not now.
Yeah. Although it is possible that whatever Jasna is angry about, and I don't know if she's angry that Shallan is there or something that happened in the Palladium or not, could be that whatever she's angry about, Shallan will offer some unique solution to, and that could maybe win her over.
Yeah, just showing her a certain way of thinking. Just showing that she has potential in her way of thinking.
Yeah. Which she's already displayed before with the boulder. So what'd you think of Brother Cabsal?
Oh, he's so charming.
He is so charming.
He's very, very nice. He's a bit of a flirt, and so is she. So I would like to see them talk again. I like their banter back and forth. It's nice and witty.
I want to call attention. First off, I felt so much for Shallan when she cringed when Brother Cabsal went to lacquer the painting. Because I would cringe too in that situation. Very presumptuous of him. Yeah. But at the same time, I was really interested in seeing how this displays her perceived timidity. Because it was very timid of her to not say anything and kind of let him do it. But she has a mouth on her, which seems to run counter to the timidity. But she thinks of that as just a consequence of having been with the sailors for so long.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think that's part of who she is, more so than the sailors. Yeah. So it's nice to actually see her be a little timid.
Yeah, we know it's because of the way her training or her upbringing for Ardents, surrounding our Ardents. It's like, I have to respect them. So it doesn't just go away when the guy's like, "Hey," and he says something funny or whatever. She still feels, oh, I can't say anything because what am I supposed to do? How do I confront him? How do I say no? So maybe it's got to do with the Ardent thing, but then again, if it was Jasna, I think she would have done the same thing. She would have been timid as well, because it's just the situation she's in. Yeah. One question I had is, what are you thinking of her plan? Because we know that she's going to replace the Soulcaster, right? And she wants to replace it with the non-functional one, and then her plan is to
dip.
No, to dip, but before that, to pin the Fabrial's breaking on them instead.
Right. I think that's not so much of a plan as it is hoping that she comes to the conclusion that Shallan wants her to.
Yeah. Seems unlucky.
Yeah, especially considering she doesn't know how it broke or why or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, big mystery in that what actually what happened on the night that this thing broke? Because it seems like a violent place that she doesn't want to go.
Am I the only one that thinks Shallan's father's death has something to do with the breaking of the Soulcaster?
No, you're not.
Okay, good. There's a mystery there to be certain, and I'm like, what is it? We are going to learn.
Yeah. So if she doesn't want to go there, she doesn't want to think about it. There was blood. Where is it? Yeah. So it just seems like that's a violent memory that she does not want to revisit, but she needs to. Like when she's walking through the place, that's when it comes across her mind. She's like, no, I've got to keep my eyes on the prize here and not think about that.
Right. Oh, slightly back to the heist element here. I really enjoyed the passage where she's debating whether or not to pay to get into the Palladium or not.
Mhm.
And she reflects to herself something to the effect of, maybe one day I can come back here. There's a little bit of her sort of lamenting the unlikelihood of that, given the criminal nature of what she's about to attempt. I thought that was very melancholic and really well done.
Yeah, it makes us, it builds on her character for us, like what she would be doing if the situation was different, what she's like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does. Sorry, I found the thing. It's called memories attacked her. Nan Balat bruised, his coat torn. So it wasn't bruise, it was blood. I mean, it wasn't blood, it was a bruise. A long silvery sword in her hand. So that was in
her
Nan's hand. Yeah, sharp enough to cut stones as if they were water. So
yes,
there's a shard blade. There's a shard blade involved. Yeah.
Yes. You don't think that Shalyn did like split personality type thing, do you?
Yeah, I don't know, because she had because it goes Nan Balat bruised, his coat torn, so it's Nan Balat is man, and then a long silver sword in her hand. So what was she on it? What was she doing? Maybe she was trying to save her dad. I don't know.
Well, we know that her dad had a temper. Maybe he was attacking her in a fit of rage or something. But although I feel like unless she's suppressing that memory, I feel like she might have thought it.
And she's, no, don't think of the past. Abnormal heart rate detected. Sorry, that is my watch. That's my watch is saying that. So I'm wondering, this mystery over here, the mystery of the death of her dad, is very exciting. It involves a shard blade, boys.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Anything else about this chapter?
Just the fact that the creation spren are.
Oh yes.
The creation spren show that she's really good, because I think it was like that, like only half a dozen would come around for most people, but then she gets 24 going because of her frenzy that she's in. So I feel like she's pretty good, and also we do have the Ardent's reaction to it. He also thinks that they're great.
Yeah. So she's clearly of exceptional skill, truly exceptional skill. Right. That's all I can think of to bring up for the moment.
Yeah. And I guess we're going to go back to Kaladin next chapter.
I haven't looked.
No, it's not. But I thought we were going Shalyn, Kaladin. We can't get used to that because no. Okay.
Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time.
Good night. Bye.